Hello, my name's Elliot and this channel is all about collecting Blu-rays. So my top 5 horror movies on 4K Blu-ray. I thought I'd do this because we're getting into October now, Halloween's coming up. If one of your favourite horror 4Ks is not on this list, by all means flame me in the comments below, but it was very hard to narrow it down to 5. And I think judging by my choices, I've done a pretty good job, but I'll let you be the judge of that. Oh, and if you want to buy any of these Blu-rays, I'll include links in the description below to purchase. And if you do, it helps support the channel. I'll be able to buy a Halloween costume at no additional cost to you, so it's a win-win. First up, it's a classic, The Shining, Stanley Kubrick. So much has been said about this movie. There's so much to read into. Like, Stanley Kubrick was such a meticulous director. He was so nitpicky with details. And that's why this film is such a mystery. All that said about reading into it and stuff, it is very scary. There are some very horrific moments. There are some very chilling moments. And just the way it's directed just leads to a feeling of alienation, isolation, all that kind of good stuff that you find in a great horror movie. And it's a great Stephen King adaptation. Stanley Kubrick only made one horror film, but he mastered the genre in this film. The 4K disc is absolutely excellent, one of the best discs to come out in the last year or two. I'm so happy with this disc. This is the collector's box, which I got here in England, but I think it's available in other parts of the world as well. Just an amazing 4K disc. I'd recommend this to any fans of The Shining. You've probably already got it, but if not, again, there's a link in the description. So this is one of my top picks for horror movies on 4K. Number 2, is it horror? Is it sci-fi? Well, it can be both. It's Alien. This is the original Alien movie directed by Ridley Scott. It's Jaws in space, as it was famously coined. Such an amazing movie, a mastercraft in terms of suspense. It's like a monster in the house movie in space. Everyone knows this film, but if you're a horror fan and you've not seen Alien, I don't know what to say. Just go and watch it because it's amazing. And this 4K disc, I think, looks and sounds brilliant. Another great thing about Alien is the set design and the whole aesthetic of the film. It's so iconic and it just has a great mood and atmosphere that really builds and helps create this sense of horror and fear. So for my money, one of my favourite horror movies of all time. And I'm so glad that the 4K disc is actually up to scratch and looks and sounds amazing. This is actually the 4K Steelbook. I've got it in one of my protective cases, so it might be a bit glary on the camera, but I'm very happy with this. The design of this 4K Steelbook, I do like the design, but I feel like this doesn't necessarily fit the original Alien film. It might fit the series as a whole more. I would have liked more black and maybe less silver and grey on this, but that's a total aside. I love this disc on 4K, and Alien is one of my top horror movies of all time. If you're enjoying this video about my top 5 horror movies on 4K Blu-ray, please do subscribe to the channel because you'd be notified about all of my videos as soon as they get uploaded, and you could join this awesome community that we have here on the channel. Anyway, back to those top 5 horror movie 4K picks. So this next one is maybe not as popular, not as mainstream as those first two, but nonetheless a great horror movie on a great 4K disc. This is Don't Look Now. This is the Studio Canal 4K release. This is a steelbook version. I love this steelbook design. If you've not seen Don't Look Now or you're not familiar with it, it's a great horror film that actually looks more at the horror of real life rather than looking at supernatural horror. So it's tackling issues of grief and loneliness, isolation, but making all of those things very horrific, very chilling and eerie. And it's set in Venice. Venice is beautiful, but in this film it looks less beautiful. It actually looks quite scary. There are some very iconic scenes in this, some great scares. So I'm a big fan of Don't Look Now, and I'm so glad that this Studio Canal 4K Blu-ray is like, it looks great. Overall, I'm very happy with this disc. I'm sure some people will disagree with me that it should make the top 5 horror 4K discs, but I'm willing to battle you in the comments over this one. But no, seriously, if there's something else that you think should take this place, do let me know in the comments below. Next up on the list, Bram Stoker's Dracula. So this is the film from Francis Ford Coppola, obviously an adaptation of the classic Dracula story. But in this one, they kind of ramped up the sex and the violence. And it's such an iconic movie in terms of my film history. I had a great experience with this the first time I saw it, and it's infinitely rewatchable. I love Gary Oldman in this movie, and I love all of the effects, all of the costumes and everything. It won a few Academy Awards. It won Best Costume Design, Best Makeup, and Best Sound Effects. And yeah, all of those things are brilliant in this movie. And in terms of how it looks and sounds on 4K, this is one of those Sony discs that I think really pushes the format in terms of older movies that were shot on film being brought onto a 4K disc. So I'm so happy to have this in my collection, and if you're looking for more recommendations for horror movies this season, then check out Bram Stoker's Dracula. And lastly, I couldn't not include this film on this list. It's John Carpenter's Halloween. This is a true classic of the genre. It really reinvigorated horror in the 70s. It spun off a load of slashers. There were so many knockoffs and so many films that took what Halloween did and took it into different areas, but you can't go wrong with the original that really set the whole trend off. I absolutely love this film. Jamie Lee Curtis is iconic in this movie. Obviously Michael Myers, amazing as one of the great horror icons. And in terms of 4K, it looks and sounds great. Obviously at the time it was shot on film, so you do get a lot of natural film grain in the image, but I really love the presentation on this disc, and I'm very happy to have it on 4K Blu-ray. If you've not seen Halloween for whatever reason, do yourself a favor, get this 4K disc for this Halloween season, and I'm sure you'll have a great time with it. I love this film, and I'm a big fan of John Carpenter, so I might have a little extra thing to show you now. So obviously John Carpenter is no stranger to the 4K format. We have a number of his films available. The one I'm going to show you as my extra pick is They Live. Now, this is the They Live 4K Steelbook. And I know what you're probably thinking, They Live, is it a horror film? Because it's probably more classified as a dystopian sci-fi movie. But yeah, I think it fits the horror vibe. There's certainly some moments that you could consider horrific in the movie. And it's John Carpenter. It's got all that classic John Carpenter styling. So I think it's a great movie to watch at Halloween. And overall, I'm very happy with the transfers on these 4K John Carpenters from Studio Canal. I mean, there are some that kind of dip in quality. I was going to mention The Fog, because I do really enjoy The Fog, but the 4K disc does have some issues on there. I think the bitrate tends to drop a number of times through the movie. But They Live is maybe one of the better looking ones of the Studio Canal 4K discs. So I thought I'd mention They Live. It's a great movie. It's got Roddy Piper in the leading role, and it's just highly enjoyable. So I'm definitely going to be rewatching this Halloween. So there you have it. That's my top 5 plus 1 horror movies on 4K Blu-ray for you to enjoy this season. Again, if you don't own any of these and you want to pick them up, I'll include some links in the description below. And if you use them, it does help out the channel at no additional cost to you. Before I go, I want to say a big thank you as always to my Patreon supporters, my Fellini fanatics. I'll include your names on the screen right now. If you're not involved with my Patreon already, by all means go and take a look. It's patreon.com/boutique Blu-rays. I put exclusive videos on there. You can request me to talk about certain topics with regards to film collecting. So check it out for exclusive videos. And we also have a private community where we discuss Blu-rays and collecting and movies and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, go and check it out, patreon.com/boutique Blu-rays. Thank you very much for joining me. If you want to stick around on the channel, click one of the videos recommended to you right now on screen, because I'm sure you could get some more good recommendations or lists from me. Anyway, I'll be back very soon, so until then, stay well and keep watching some great horror movies.